A lot of it would do with the physical appearance. When usually on a database, when you look at water, it's clear. Sometimes you realize the water is murky or looks muddy. So you would have to actually throw off the water because it would actually contaminate water that you have already stored in some of the tanks. The quality of the water coming to the treatment plant would be of such that it would require a lot more, let's say, cleaning to actually get it to the quality that you'd want to go to the customers. And if you already have water in storage, you won't want to mix that water. So sometimes you actually have to throw off the water because it would actually make what you have in storage worse, a lot worse.
And thank you for explaining that. Hopefully that explanation is clear and acceptable to our listeners and viewers. Mr. Carty.
Good morning to everyone out there in Radio Land. I'm Mr. Kurt Carty, Inspector of Works. And this details in terms of maintenance, burst pipe, interruptions, and all those stuff. So, every day as you go with the task, you have machines go out there to do works. Even like in the night time up to last night after 6, somebody was doing some work with a machine, which, is not. They didn't notify the water department, and I almost sure the other utilities like Skelec, cable, that would cause some serious interruption because when you damage something at that time at night, you have to find someone to get out there. It's pouring rain at that time. So, it's a heavy task with that. But, we still do our best to serve the general public daily. To add a little for what Sean just mentioned in terms of with you getting those reports, to put it out to the public, the heavy rain. And that's one of the main issue, the heavy rain. When you have heavy rain, especially in the rural west area, Wingfield, Stonefort, Franklands, that is the time when we have to throw the water offline. The water is actually like mud, dirty, silt. So that time somebody will call and say, how we have so much rain and we don't have any water. But that's the main reason why you come in and you send that report out to say, this is the reason why we don't have water from New Guinea to Limekeel, that kind of thing.
I have to say, you've trained me well, because whenever I notice that there's a heavy cloud cover westward, I say we're not going to have any water, and I'm on standby, and generally it works. So now that you've explained that, again, in great detail, I'm hoping that the public would be able to predict that as well. Yes?
So, I mean to check on that as well. Sometimes it's not even us, for say, who turn off the water. We have heavy rains in the mountain. Sometimes we ourselves don't even realize it's raining in the mountain, and the intake themselves actually get blocked. Lots of sand come down, fill up the catchment area, and then it will take some time. You have to get manpower to actually go and do physical work. A lot of the areas where that is blocked, backhoes, they're not used to us. So sometimes you realize you have to move maybe 30, 40 yards of dirt, all with shovel. Big stones, so sometimes it's not that we actually lock off the water, but the physical work has to be done, the heavy rains, trees, blockage, sometimes trees come down, drop across the gut, break the pipeline, so some of it is not our doing, it's nature's doing.
Definitely. So when I've seen the footage, I've seen some of the images, just some, and I have to say that I am in awe at the work that you do to get the water restored and the service restored. And it's cyclical. You do it regularly because, if it rains again, there you go again.
If it rain have to today, it block up. If it rain come tomorrow, the same sentiment, it block up the same way again. And like as I said, there is it's manpower. You have to have manpower to go there. You might have to carry 2 lengths of pipe. You have to carry those pipes on your shoulder to take them up to the intake because it's only foot by walking. There's no way that a machine, a vehicle could take that pipe there. You'll go to a certain way and then you have to walk the rest.
And again, that is important for the public to know because I realize in a lot of instances when I am, again, fielding those notices and we have estimated service restoration times, it might seem like a long time to people who do not know exactly what is involved in ensuring that the water is restored. But again, you work very well as a team. I'm sure individually as well, and I'm grateful for the work that you do. Hopefully the public will be too. So if you have a question or comment for these gentlemen, feel free to call us here in the studio at 465-1977 and 465-1903. You are listening to The Waterline, you are viewing The Waterline, and we are continuing our conversation this way. We are in the midst of, or some would say right at the tail end of the hurricane season. So far, I would say that we've been very blessed. We've not had an actual hurricane here, but you've still been dealing with a lot of the impact, as
Yes.
you described. Recently enough, I think I saw, and you pointed it out to me, footage of your team working in Phillips's with the shovels, with all of the other things. I know in Wingfield that's regular as well. Again, describe for me how difficult that is, how easy it is, and how your team works together to get that, service restored.
The word easy is not in that one. It's nothing easy. It's just a mind thing because the guys, like, they're not accustomed. There's loyal, and it's guys that you could depend on a daily basis because, like as I say, if it rain today, they have to go clean the entire intake with shovels, big stones, silt, sand you have to throw out from that intake where the water is catched, and saved there. From that, if it rain tonight again, they have to go back and do the same exact thing tomorrow morning, But like as I said, they know where the community need the water, and we usually have people from each area. So you're living in this community, we have a group of fellas who live in that area. So they know that why we can't live with parents, with auntie, with cousins, everybody out of water. We must do this for the entire community to be safe, comfortable.
I like the point that you made there because you're absolutely right. We live in an island. Generally, everybody knows everybody else, and when you personalize it that way, it makes sense. I do want to throw out the hotline number right now because we've gotten some information from the public as well. So obviously, they're cooperating with you with them. The Water Services hotline, in the event that there is an emergency, you spot a leak, you can help us save water, you can help us identify those places where we need to be. The number is 662-4307. That's a number that you call to make sure that these guys are aware of what they need to do and what they need to target. Of course, again, as I said before, the numbers to call here are 465-1977 and 465-1903 if you have a question or a comment. All right, so again, we're in the midst of, or as I said before, in the tail end of a hurricane season, and I'm curious to know about some of the procedures that you might have in place. So let's start with you, Mr. Greenaway, in terms of monitoring the quality of water, which I'm sure, as you rightly said, you do it periodically. Is it a case where it might actually, let's say that time frame that you use or the intervals, is that sped up during this hurricane season? How does that work for you?
Yes, sometimes we have to change the frequency of how you monitor. Even though you have a schedule, the instances that you have to either delay monitoring for whatever reason, maybe affected by the weather, so you cannot go out and actually do the testing that is required for that time. So it varies from time to time, but even though we have to do that monitoring and we have to make sure that the water is safe, the public themselves have a role to play. A lot of us want to run from the fact, but I think if we do a little storage at home as well, it could help. So you might not even realize that there's no water, for certain periods of time. And even during hurricanes, that's one of the things that the NEMA would put out is storage of water for a few days, Make sure you have some kind of storage because we do not know what would happen during a storm. Yes, before a storm, we would have stored water, fill the tanks, and then we would shut off the tanks for whatever period. But before we actually turn back on the water, Kurt would expound on that. They would go out and do physical inspections, make sure the pipelines are not destroyed because you don't want to turn back on the water and all the water go to waste. So there still might be other factors that actually not a fault of the department why you are not getting water at home. So it's still advisable, no matter how much rain we have in, still have some kind of storage at home.
All right. From your lips to our ears. Anything to add, sir?
Yes, to add to that, as Sean would have mentioned, what we do when it comes to just a storm, hurricane, we try to make sure that we fill all our tanks, our reservoirs, make sure all of them is filled. From time to time, we'll have to shut them down. And the main reason for shutting them down is that if you have a full tank of water and you have a broken pipe, a landslide or anything like that, tomorrow or when the storm is off, we could go repair that pipe in 2 hours, an hour, and then you turn back the water on. But if you don't turn it off at that time and the pipe break overnight within that storm or hurricane, the tank would empty. Everything will just run out and go. So it's always best to full it, have a full tank sitting there. After the storm, you go out, you do assessment, and you make sure everything is fine, and then you open up. If there is no breakage. If there is a breakage, you repair it, because we do know where the pipelines are. So you do that repair, the whole community get back the water in 2 hours.
I have to say the public ought to be feeling very confident knowing that we have people like you working at the St. Kitts Water Services Department, because not only are you dedicated, but you know your stuff. And that's
Right.
very important. And thank you for that as well. So if I can continue the conversation very quickly as we talk about, again, water quality during times of hurricanes and passages of tropical storms. Contamination prevention. What's the protocol? What do you do, let's say, pre-storm? What do you do post-storm? What does the testing look like? What are you looking for?
Well, most of it depends on the test you're doing. A lot of the tests we could actually get done locally at the Bureau of Standard, but if it's major, it would actually require us to do that test overseas, which would take some time. So that's one of the reasons we say before, usually we're monitoring before a storm comes, so we know the quality of the water going into the storm. And then after the storm, we would actually, before we actually turn back on the water, we would probably do basic testing for like coliforms, fecal coliforms. Those are really contamination from animals or human feces and stuff like that. And one of the good things, based on where our intakes are located, there's no sewage plants or no underground sewage system near those areas. So a lot of the times when you do the testing, you don't really find that much, but you still have to make sure that the quality of the water is that good enough to actually give the consumers, so testing, most of the testing a lot of the time is more based on physical appearance, and then at the same time you would advise the customers, the general public, to still boil the water during that time until you get the all clear, whether it's from the department or the Ministry of Health, that the water is of that quality you could actually go to the pipes and drink it.
I gotta say, I love the cricket analogy because that's all I saw. That's all I heard. All clear. Hitting for six. So St. Kitts Water Services Department batting
But
for six here.
Yeah, I could add, it's not just the water department who does have an interest in the quality of the water. The Ministry of Health, because they don't want an outbreak of gastro type of, whether it's in the schools or the homes or the public. You don't want an influx of people coming to the hospital for vomiting and all that because they drink the water. You don't want the health centers to be overwhelmed. So they themselves have a vested interest in the quality of the water. So it's not just the water department, but other entities would have, even those companies that do bottled water. The quality of the water affects their system. It costs them a lot more to treat the water. So it's not just the water department. Other stakeholders, they have interest. So they themselves, from time to time, I get calls from water bottling companies. Why the quality of the water that way? Because it affects their machines, and and you'll have to explain. So it's not just us. General public, some of them have interest, and they also monitor the water.
And I like the way that you're doing that because, honestly, again, to your tagline, water is life, every drop counts. And so your segmentation of that, that explanation, hitting different industries, hitting different people, everyone in terms of health, great, because every drop counts. And that's important to remember. All right, so we're talking about hurricane preparedness in our final moments here, actually. We've a little bit of time left still. But we're talking about hurricane preparedness. What does the St. Kitts Water Services Department do? I heard Mr. Greenaway segue to you, of course, a little earlier, talking about, you're being able to explain the protocols, things like that. So pre-post storm, what can you let us know?
Well, as I said, like for the hurricane preparedness, like I said, what we do earlier in terms of the tanks and the water to prepare, but not just that. We start from the office. We prepare everything from the office before the hurricane. We come in, we set up everything, make sure the computers, make sure all of that is intact. Along with the fellas them, we try to get everything. We might have to go to the hardware to get water boots, raincoat, flashlights, shovels, because we know all of this entails what would happen after that storm. We're grateful that we didn't have a hurricane like that for a very long time. But we always try our best to prepare, make sure we prepare for that at all time. So when that hurricane hit, we always ready.
Definitely good to know, and I love that. There's a lot of planning that takes place, a lot of logistics that, again, the public doesn't generally get to see. But when it comes to your preparedness and the way that you implement those plans, I would have to say that I'm grateful that we have the experience here and we know what we need to do to ensure that the public generally benefits from your expertise as well as the supply that seemingly now most of the public is looking forward to with the upcoming commissioning of the Bastard Desalination Plant. So that's all very good news as well. Before we continue, I want to throw out some numbers again. 465-1977, 465-1977 if you want to talk with these gentlemen, and also 465-1903 if you have anything to say to these gentlemen on the water line. All right. So we're continuing the discussion really quickly. We're engaging, of course, with members of the water service staff members of the St. Kitts Water Services Department. And one of the things that you said, which is very important to our discussion on, of course, the whole hurricane preparedness, passage of tropical storm issue and content really is the integration of systems from one entity to the other, the stakeholders and so on. So in addition to NEMA, in addition to the St. Kitts Bureau of Standards, are there any other stakeholders that you have regular relations with that you wish to bring to the fore even now?
There are lots of stakeholders. We have the fire department, police, down to everybody likes to party, I must say. The brewery, they are very much interested in water quality as well.
Brewery is I will say, the single largest user that we have.
And of course, again, you're bringing back memories. I don't know why you're making me nostalgic this morning, because you mentioned breweries, and all I could remember is going to school, not waiting for break time to come around to get my Fanta, right? And of course, we know where that water comes from for the Fantas. So, that being said, let's continue our discussion. Yes.
Well, I realize the message hasn't gone through, so let me read it for you.
Great.
Good morning, guys. Question for you all. Who is responsible for broken lines in the mansion area? And can I get a number, please?
They could call the hotline number, because a broken line could be 6 o'clock in the evening when the guys at the office left already. So they could call the hotline number. The hotline number have the numbers for each person in each one of the communities. So they will call that person. And myself, inspector of work, sometimes if they can't reach that person, they will contact me. The hotline will contact me, and then I will reach the correct person at the time.
All right, and for completeness, the number 662-4307. That's the hotline number.
All right, let me put that down.
All right, so 662-4307. Recently enough, actually, and I'm glad that that question came, because this is something that I have been meaning to do as well. On the Ministry of Public Infrastructure's website, for those of you who might not be aware of it, mopieUDT.gov.kn, there's a customer service page which actually allows customers to log water service issues as well, and then that information gets funneled to you on your end. So if you want to use that form, feel free to do so as well. All right, so we are in our final few moments. Very engaging discussion, I would have to say, by the way, concerning what you do, particularly as it relates to ensuring that we have water I don't want to say 24/7, but really that's the goal, so we're working towards it, and I'm grateful for everything that you've done. But even more so, bringing it home to what we've seen recently with the passage of nearby storms, and how even, I would even say this much, sometimes we don't even notice the damage or, the harm that those things cause. We say it's not a hurricane, so we're okay. But then when you get out in the fields and you see exactly what's done, then you know exactly what needs to be done. And so preparedness is key, and I'm glad that the Water Services Department has those plans in place. In our final few moments, I'm going to ask both of you if there is anything that you wish to let the public know that you deem is important for them to know concerning your work.
As you just mentioned about the awareness. So what we have coming on scene right now is the disal plant. They just had the final testing. So what the department will be doing pretty soon is going out to have some public awareness, sensitizing the public in terms of what we will be doing, and so in terms of that desalination water, because people still have a mindset with different ways and different way they're thinking of it. But even to now, our water is safe, and I could assure the general public that that water will be safe as well. So it's nothing to worry about. And when that desal plant comes on scheme, we will be having in the Bastia, Bird Rock, Frigate Bay, and the neighboring areas around Bastia would have 24 hours water, so we won't be rationing anymore, because you're having 2 million gallons per day added to our system. Something really great. So coming soon. Can't give you that deadline date.
That sounds like a trailer.
Pretty soon. That will be happening.
All right, good news. Yes, Mr. Gwinnery.
Yes, and again, my team, the water quality, in terms of water quality, will be involved. And even when the desal plant is up and running for the 24 hours water, we still would have to be monitoring. We still will be engaging with the Bureau of Standards, the Health Department, all the other entities to make sure that the quality of the water is very safe, make sure that the standards are met. So it's not just starting up the system and putting the water in the system. There's checks and balances to make sure that the water that this public is actually getting is up to standard, and the quality is deemed safe for, not just for the general public, but for me myself. I'll be one of the users.
Right.
All of us in here would be using the water. So sometimes people feel that, water department giving them bad water. But at the same time, I do feel the effects. If your water goes, depends on which area it is at the time, my water would go. Your water goes, If it's in St. Peter's, Cook water will go. Bird Rock, your water goes, So it's not just one person who feels the effect a lot of the time. It's everybody. So that's one of the things we have to make sure that the quality, again, I stress the quality would be up to standard, meet the WHO, World Health Organization standards, and that standard is governed throughout the world. So it's not just something made up for St. Kitts, but if I take the quality of the water from here, take it to a neighboring island and they test it, it will be deemed safe for those people on that island as well.
All right, and I have nothing to add to that because, of course, great final words for today's edition of The Waterline. So I'm certain that you've helped with public confidence as well as the trailer coming soon.
Right.
The Bastia Desalination Plant. So I've been speaking with the Inspector of Quality at the St. Kitts Water Services Department, Sean Grinaway, and the Inspector of Works, Mr. Kurt Carty, on this edition of The Waterline. Thank you for joining us. I am Jamie Morris saying, until next time, remember water is life and every drop counts.
Water is life, 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 life. Water is life, 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 life. Do just